Welcome to Who's Right, What's Left. I'm your co-host, Melissa Reinhart.
And I'm Matt Neubauer. We're here to discuss some of the important issues that face Americans today and have some civil discourse and banter between friends and parties.
Who's right?
What's left?
Welcome back, everyone. I'm Melissa.
And I'm Matt.
And today we're going to talk about student loan debt relief under the Biden-Harris administration. This is something that Matthew wanted to discuss. Actually, he was ready to jump on this. And then since we decided on this topic, May 21st, the Biden-Harris administration announced the approval of $7.7 billion additional student loan debt relief for over 160,000 borrowers. So, of course, I did my research to see the who, what, when, where, and how. And I've got all my data here, of course.
Sure. Data is important, too.
But I would just like to, and then maybe the best way to talk about this is for you to share a little bit how you feel about it, or maybe what you know about it, and then we can go back and forth.
Okay. I don't know.
I don't want to lecture.
Well, I don't know a lot on the stats. I do know on the surface, they came out with this when they first, that was part of the campaign promise, back in the day, the first term.
Sure.
And they didn't get it done. And now that November's rolling up again, now we're starting to see some action. I think they secretly banked this for the second term election so that they could show this as a win right before November. But part of the issue I have with it is I get that student debt's a huge problem. I mean, college, let's call it what it is. College is a multi-level marketing scheme, and for the most part, on its foundation. I mean, accredited or not, they're in the money-making business. So my concern with this is, once colleges find out that, the federal government will pay up to $40,000 for a year of college, why am I, as a college, why am I not charging my students $40,000 then for the first year? Why am I not elevating that like the medical system? Like, this procedure costs this much. So now even smaller colleges are going to jump in that bandwagon and elevate this cost.
And charge more.
To a ridiculous amount. So if you don't want to take it, you'll have no choice but to take out the student loan and be, at the mercy of whatever the government decides to do for you. That's my concern with it. And the other half is it does not seem equitable to the people we have in our service industries, plumbers, electricians, folks like that who have done apprenticeships, bought their own equipment, started their own businesses. We've got a shortage of those people. The government's not stepping in to start any of those businesses, despite the fact there's a 4-week waiting list for a plumber. Where's and again, this is just.
Well, I'm not seeing the linkage between someone who decides to go to college and someone who goes to apprenticeship. And
well, you decided to go to college. I mean, you knew
right, and
the
you decided
debt.
to become. I want to become a plumber.
Okay.
So there's debts incurred both ways.
There is. So why is the college kid getting his debt paid for?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Not? See what I mean?
Okay.
Yeah. Why these kids and not these
kids? You were
kids?
Compartmentalizing this and you weren't doing the linkage.
Right,
okay,
right.
okay. Okay, so I'm sorry I interrupted.
Concerns. No, those are the two big concerns I've got with it.
Okay. So I have, since Biden became president, I have actually benefited from the PSLF, Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. I actually started the process before he was president because I'd worked for a nonprofit. That program's been around since George W. was president, since 2007, and I actually learned about it just by working in a nonprofit. They're like, hey, Melissa, you've worked in a nonprofit for over 10 years. You've made on-time payments. You qualify for some loan forgiveness. So it took me 3 years to get it, and boy, I was really happy when that happened last fall. Actually, yeah, I couldn't sleep for like 2 days. And I actually made more than 10 years worth of on-time payments, and then COVID messed everything up, right? Actually, what they're doing now, for the most part, isn't impacting PSLF, but it has added more. It has sped up the process for others like myself who've worked in the public sector. That's also people who've worked for tribal entities, for the states. There's also the National Health Service Corps, people who want to work for the Indian Health Service, or people who want to work in rural areas. People want to work for like where my employer, a federally qualified health center. You work for them for 3-4 years. You get some of your student loans taken care of, essentially. And that program has been around since 1972 when Nixon was president. So some of these programs have actually been around a long time.
Absolutely. And those I agree with 100%.
Yeah, and
I'm on board with
it's
those.
what you dedicate your career to,
Yep.
and that you are faithful payer on your debt, right?
Well, and your service to your country.
Well, right. You've
So-
chosen a career where you're in service to your country in very various ways. So for the most part, Biden's student loan forgiveness isn't necessarily those two programs. But like I said, with the PSLF and this last one in May, some of those borrowers were included. What the Biden-Harris administration has done is opened up many different many different options. Like if your income falls within this, then you qualify for $20,000 student loan forgiveness, unless you have $15,000 in debt, and then you don't qualify for 20, you qualify for 15. If you are under the federal poverty line, then this is what happens. So there's these different tracks, right? It wasn't me that decided this, Matthew.
No, I get it. I'm saying, but where's the payback to the rest of the country?
Okay, so if you can demonstrate hardship, special hardship in your life. I know. When I read that one, I was like, oh, he's going to make a face, and he just made a face.
No, but I mean, we're talking. Are we? I get a free basket weaving degree. This is all the fine arts and stuff that God bless them for wanting to learn that. But like, if you don't go to college with a focus on how am I going to turn this into income versus, it's just what I do for 4 years. I'm going to go study, Eastern religion. Cool.
And that I don't have data on. And it would be really interesting. I would challenge you, Matthew, to go be curious to know how many of the degree seekers are actually or in degree programs that are to get that job or is it more of a liberal arts, growth, and you know what I mean?
Going just to go.
Right. Because, that's originally why university began a very, very long time ago. And now it's driven by, I'd be curious to see how much of that is.
I would too. Because the first few programs that you mentioned, I get the payoff to the loaner is the service to your country. You did work for, like you said, the nonprofits or what have you. You're working under what you could be making. So that is, that's fair that you would get part of that reduced or work that off. But just, I only make X amount of dollars, so we're just going to forget this ever happened.
Well, another track is if you're making minimum wage or less.
Okay.
Then there's that track too to be considered for student loan debt relief. So anyway, just to throw some stats out there, because 1 in 10 borrowers have been approved some kind of relief in the country. So I would be one of those 10. I don't know have you had student loans? No. Okay. 13% of Americans have student loan debt, or 43 million people. That's a lot of people. Any guesses, without looking at my papers, what the average student loan debt was last year?
Oh, for the country?
Yes.
Oh,
So, of course, you're going to have really high.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to have really low. It's just shy of $39,000.
Okay.
The average.
Yep.
Right? And then the average student debt in Indiana is $28,000. So, anyway, that's a lot of money.
It is. It is a lot of money.
And it isn't just the private schools. It's the tech schools too. And it's also something that doesn't make the media. And I have to admit, I didn't realize this either. And I had to dig a little bit. Have you heard about this concept of securitized debt? that in order for people to get the low student loan, the student loan interest rates, they combine those debt assets into securities, and then they're batched and sold and then resold through investors.
Yeah.
They're making money off
Ridiculous.
of it. I mean,
Exactly. So
I was just like, people don't take those loans out unless they need them. So it's really on the backs of the middle and lower income students that we have this problem to begin with. So that's one of the criticisms, you've already alluded to it, and I've heard it over and over. I had someone tell me, we were talking about student loan debt relief like 2 months ago, and I said, I qualified under PSLF, and, after 15, 16 years of paying, I got the remainder of mine forgiven. And they're like, well, I paid mine off. And I said, well, I did too. Not making a whole lot of money as a social scientist either. And they didn't understand. It was because of the employment, the service I chose to do.
Right.
And, that really rubbed me the wrong way. It was just like I wasn't looking for a handout. Like, I made on-time payments.
And worked for a qualifying
employer,
which
jumped
is
through
huge.
lots of hoops. Right.
This is significantly different. I would even be on board for first of all, it's BS that your government is giving you a loan and then charging a ridiculous interest rate. That's
a money making. That's with the investors.
The investors.
Yeah, I know.
Like the government can't back that. How about we take this money and keep it within the government and charge interest-free, pay it back interest-free? Why are we charging interest to begin with? If you want to start with that and do that across the board, super. But this falls back to, the income base. And so, we're going to help out people. And God, it's not that I don't want to help out folks below the poverty line, but the folks that are just over it, again, get skirted. So you get your lower middle class and middle class. It's like, sorry, no money for you. You're actually, your 60-hour-a-week job earns too much, so we're not going to give you this rate.
When they put a pause on student loan payments during the pandemic, we learned a lot that temporarily eliminating that student debt, if you just temporarily, pausing, it really helped the overall economy. It helped people. People were able to afford. Now we could talk about for hours the choices that were made about things that they bought, especially with those the checks that they got periodically from the government.
Right.
But anyway, I mean, it did help up. I know it helped me out.
Sure. I know absolutely know people
oh my goodness.
benefited from that.
But so the argument that it hurts our economy for taxpayers to pay this off,
I don't agree with that argument.
Oh, really?
No, that's it. This is
because that's one of the biggest arguments against it.
So, but these are the same clowns who are going to tell you it's okay to spend $90,000 on a bag of washers for a jet. You know what I mean? The Air Force is spending, here's a $90,000 bag of screws I can get at HWI for $19. That's if you're wasting that kind of money in other areas, this is, I think, probably a small fraction. I would just like to see it more fairly distributed to, if you're going to do it, get rid of the interest rate. Spread it out a little longer. We're going to help this. We're going to help the I don't know what percentage of people, again, who got a degree that was probably utterly useless, and it's social work aside, how are you making $20,000 a year with a college degree? How did that happen?
Well, social workers coming out of a program.
Social workers have got a special place. That doesn't. We're not going to count them. Social workers are doing God's
they get
work.
a pass.
They're doing God's
see.
work. They're improving the country. They're doing God's work.
And artists, and we could go through a whole big list. They don't make a lot of money coming right out of school.
Journalists, I know, but look, it's fake news though. It's fake news.
Mm-hmm.
It's entertainment news.
So you said before, it's unfair for for people to pay off the debt of those who can't or don't want to. But it's unfair to them as taxpayers. It sounds like you've said two different things that counter one another.
In a way, you took on the debt. You took on the debt. You knew what it was. You knew what it was going to be. Up to the tune of like $40,000, I guess. It's at what point are you responsible for that? Or are you not? I think morally you kind of are responsible for at least a portion of that. Now again, I'm willing to sell half, if not all that off, if you're going to do some type of service to the country or service to the poor or service to the military or whatever. But do something for it. Don't just be like, oh, got my degree, now I can't pay for it.
So bail me out. So if they took away the interest rate free loan, what do you do? Like, you sign off your firstborn? Like, what do you do if you what do you do if you default on your loan? Like, what? I don't know. What are the consequences?
Well, then why don't we put this into something more like government scholarships then? If that's going to be an issue, I would even be for that. Like, qualify for it.
Okay.
Don't just get a 4-6 year degree and now I'm making under poverty line, but I keep going to college because. And again, this isn't everybody, but you've heard those horror stories where people will enroll in college, get their check, drop out, go spend the $10,000 they got, and then do it again the next semester.
$10,000
or whatever it is.
That's a hefty sum, sir.
Whatever it is. I've heard of several teachers that is a thing. Go get your loan, get your student, get your book money, get your check from the government, and then drop out and then sign up again next semester.
They will find you.
And those are the folks that
Sally Mae's going to find you.
Well, till you sit on it long enough till the government pays it off and drops it. I don't know. I think there's better ways to spend the money. I do want to help students. I do want to encourage education. I think education is huge in this country. I think the tuition costs are ridiculous.
It's a money-making business.
I also think it's immoral for a college to be a money-making business. But we all love money, but a college that's scandalous that they rake in the money they do and charge what they do. I think this is just going to encourage higher tuition, I just think there are better ways to distribute this money more fairly, and get better results for it.
Nice conclusion. Did you take out student loans for your undergraduate degree? I'm just curious.
I did not.
You were able to pay for college as you went through?
So
I'm putting you on the spot.
Both my parents are teachers, and there was an employer discount, a significant employer discount at the time. So I really lucked out. So I'm not speaking from a position of experience, and that does sound pretty elitist. But I have taken out other loans.
Sounds fortunate. That's great.
100%. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I didn't have undergraduate loan debt. Mom and Dad made it their goal to put the three of us through college. That was always their goal. And then anything beyond that, we were on our own. So, and that's exactly what I did. Yeah. I put myself through graduate school twice. So, okay. I was just curious because that's a private school and it's not cheap.
Yep.
It's not cheap. It's actually in line with the stats I gave before. Whew. And if you live on campus, even more expensive. So anyway, all right. Well,
and again, I no shame to anybody who's student loans are a necessity. And
unless you're wealthy, really, that's what it comes down to.
Well, but I just would like to see it more fairly distributed and from the jump. Not get into a situation where people are even in this situation. Like, again, government scholarships would be wonderful. We could have any kind of government service.
Can you imagine what that vetting process would be like? With the millions of applicants or do it. Some of the European models. You don't go into the military. You work for a hospital for 2 years. You work for something else for a couple of years. There are lots of things we could different options. We're pretty babied here.
Yeah.
We're really babied here. So, all right, followers, thank you for listening to our different points of view on student loan debt relief.
Yes. We'll see you next time.
Take care.
The opinions and views expressed on Who's Right, What's Left are Matt and Melissa's solely. They are not necessarily the views of the Republican Party, the Democratic Party, or either of the participants' employers. We'd like to thank our production team at influencer.tv. For more information on how to start your own podcast, check them out at influencer.tv.
And don't forget, you can like us on Facebook and Instagram. And you can listen and leave your 5-star review and share on both Apple and Spotify. And don't forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel.
These are important, critical conversations we all need to have with each other for the future of our country. Remember to be polite, make it fun, and we can all agree to disagree.